Alex Muscatelli, Director of Western Europe Sovereign at FItch Ratings. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning. Good morning.
What's the most important keys about this report about Spain that the last Friday we know and was stable, but with a lot of keys about the Spanish economy?
Yes, I think the key point is that first of all we affirmed Spain's rating at A-, and this Spain's rating is supported by the fact that Spain is a high value-added economy. It has strong indicators in areas that we look at, like governance, ease of doing business, for example, and these are in line or above the medians of Spain in the rating category of A. But also, as you said, the outlook is stable, and the stable outlook reflects our view that the recovery prospects for the rest of this year and for 2022, along with the favorable continued funding conditions for Spain's public debt, will facilitate a steady or a downward trajectory for public debt and for the potential. I think this is the key message.
You said in this report, your team says that the Spanish economy have very important things to do business for doing business in Spain. What these important things to make this business in Spain?
I suppose this is a series of indicators that we look at, the World Bank governance indicators, the ease of doing business. These are quite important in our analysis, and they serve as a benchmark to compare Spain with other countries. But I think in the current context, the most important things that we are looking at is from a macroeconomic perspective, from an economic perspective, looking at the recovery in the Spanish economy this year, and the strength of the recovery that we expect it to be quite substantial, starting from now essentially, and over the second, the third, and the fourth quarter of this year. And what we expect to see a combination of private sector activity picking up as the health situation improves, as and so restrictions can be eased, so social distancing can be eased. But also we expect this to go hand in hand with the start of the development of the recovery and resilience plan and the investments linked to this. So all in all, the combination of the pickup in private sector activity, the impact of the investments, we would expect the combination of these to translate to quite strong growth rates for the Spanish economy. 6% this year on average, and 6.6% in 2022. And so, and it will be domestic demand that will be the main driver of this. The contribution from the external sector will be moderate, and more importantly, what our forecasts imply is that the level of real GDP of Spain will reach the pre-pandemic level in the third quarter of next year. So at the third quarter of next year, you get back to the level you were at the end of 2019.
Forecast and perspective and the risk of the coronavirus could impact the economy in 2022?
Well, yeah, I think the risks to the economic outlook and to our forecasts are quite buoyant, let's say, are quite positive. What are the risks to these? One is connected to the health situation. If you have new outbreaks, potentially linked to new variants, and these can dampen, these can have an impact on growth through a new imposition of restrictions and extra restrictions. That's one risk that we have. Another risk that we have is that we have this substantial boost to economic activity coming through from the RTRP and from the spending projects. If the rollout of the recovery plan is slower than expected, then we would have a slower growth outlook. And then if we go to the private sector, the recovery in domestic demand depends also on the fact that households in Spain should start spending again. So we have seen in Spain, we have seen in many countries that the savings ratios have gone up a lot in this crisis. It's a combination of reasons. It's precautionary, but it's also the restrictions. Now, if households are not as confident about the economic outlook and the labor market outlook, these high level of savings might not fall as fast as we think, and this would result in a slower growth rate too.
And the debt for the sovereign debt in Spain, what's the opinion of Fitch about this increase in the last year, and this position of increase in sovereign debt could impact to the economy?
Well, as I mentioned earlier at the very start, the factors that support the rating are the structural features of the Spanish economy that I mentioned. The high level of public debt is the main restraint. The fact that Spain has a very high level of public debt is the main restraint on the rating and keeps the rating lower than it would be otherwise. Now, obviously, we have seen this big rise to 120% to the end of 2020. We think the public debt will start to fall in 2022. We still think it will be slightly higher this year. It will start falling in 2022 to reach 117.6%. It would still be very high. It will be around, double our forecast for the A median, but and there are obviously risks for the economy coming from such a high level of debt. At the same time, in the current context, there are some mitigating factors to this high level of debt. For example, there are the funding conditions for Spain's public debt are favorable, are very favorable at the moment. So if you look at the cost of financing of Spain's public debt this year, it was essentially close to zero if we look at the average interest rate. Also, Spain has the average maturity of Spanish debt is around 8 years, so it's quite long. What this means is that if interest rates rise, it would take some time for it to have an impact. That said, the level is high. When we look at factors that can change the rating, we are looking also at the development in public debt and the confidence that the public debt ratio can be put on a downward path. And this factor would be a sensitivity. This is a sensitivity that would lead to an improvement that could lead to an improvement either in the outlook or in the rating itself.
Thank you very much. Alex Muscatelli, Director Western Europe Sovereign at Fitch Ratings. Good day. Very good business.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. Have a good day too. Cheers.
Thanks for you. Cheers.